Brooklyn subway shooting. Person of interest Frank James posted racist rants to YouTube for years. I do believe he got arrested. And what I've heard, and I think, I'll throw to Jason to correct me if I'm wrong, is that this guy was posting like black nationalist stuff.
Yes. He's been radicalized by corporate media. We've been sending black people the message through corporate media that you're a victim, you're oppressed, white people are the devil, and this guy bought what the media was selling. He's from Milwaukee or Waukesha, same area as the Darrell Brooks guy who was radicalized. It's no one should be surprised that we're creating these types of monsters, because the media is basically telling you're crazy if you don't think like this guy.
I got a story for you, Jason. Some people watch the show and have seen it, may have heard me, but I assume most people haven't heard the story. I know sometimes I tell stories, several times, but there's different guests, so I apologize for it. But I knew a guy once, and I'll try and simplify the story for the sake of their privacy. There was a black dude and there was a white dude, and the black dude mentioned he was gonna, go run to the store real quick. And the white dude said, "Hey, when you're out, can you mind, when you're by the store, can you grab me a cheeseburger from the McDonald's?" And the guy said, "Excuse me?" And he was like, "Would you mind grabbing me a cheeseburger when you're over there by the McDonald's?" And then he started yelling at him, like, "What do you think? Who do you think I am?" Later, I asked the guy, like, "Whoa, I saw you yelling. Like, what happened?" And he's like, "The dude, he thinks I'm his boy. Like, I'm gonna go and get him food." And then I was like, if you were going to the store, I figured he'd just ask you to pick him up a burger. And so that was, to me, I was kind of like, I was like, I think you might be looking too much into this. And he said, "You don't understand, man. You don't understand what they think about people like me." And then I was like, when I was growing up, it didn't matter what your race were. We'd be like, "Oh, hey, you're out. Hey, give me a hot dog and fries. Would you do it?" We'd be like, "Sure." But I think what happens is you have people constantly saying, it's like Ibram X. Kendi said, it's not a question of did racism happen. It's how did racism manifest. You'll have people who think it's everywhere and look for it. And I'm like, maybe he just wanted you to be his friend and, do him a favor. Maybe he wasn't being racist. But if people internalize that and they constantly look for it, they might get offended where they shouldn't.
This goes all the way back to the feminization of America. Everything's about feelings. Women are driven by feelings more so than men. We've turned this entire society about, I feel like a woman, even though I have a penis. I feel like something was racist, even though that coach called a white guy MFer, and that's his language of choice. Even though that same guy that asked to get a cheeseburger asked his white friend to get him a cheeseburger the week before. But if I feel like it was racist, it is. And we all seem to accept that standard.
No, I don't personally. But
Growing up, I had friends who would use racial slurs for all of us, and he wasn't racist. It was just edgy young punk humor. We watched Family Guy and South Park, so he'd go around and we'd all laugh at it. He would call us names. I'm like, I don't care, like, because he's my friend and I know he's just trying to take jabs at me and it's funny. And he would call himself names too. But today's day and age, it's like you can't belittle these ideas. When I look back on what it was like being a kid, having a friend who would call people names, it felt like he was taking the power away from it. He would say something that was ultimately meaningless to all of us and was meant in jest and kind of playfully, so we never got mad about it. Nowadays, they've empowered it so much that even asking someone to grab you a burger is like the epitome of racism, that it's everywhere, always. And it's not the right, it's the woke who claim they're anti-racist, who are funneling as much oxygen into those fires of racism as possible.
Yeah, I wonder, is it biological? Like, is it in the diet, in the plastics in the water, the microplastics and the...
That's a big leap.
All these chemicals, like, that are making people so tense and edgy that they can't, like, not get angry when they hear these things?
I think a lot of it's just sort of ideology going around. It's making people... mentally ill in a way that they're
social media, man.
Yeah, it's a lot of it's social media, a lot of it's clicks. A lot of people are staying at home. They just don't have their friend circle. I mean, this is the stuff like Jonathan Haidt, Greg Lukianoff wrote about in Coddling the American Mind. We're seeing all-time highs of sort of mental health issues, depression, sexlessness among young kids, not young kid, well, college-aged people. I'd hope sexlessness in young kids. But yeah, I mean, it's there's this skyrocketing rates of mental health issues, and this is, I think, we're seeing sort of a manifestation of a lot of that. We have this focus on these microaggressions. So when I was in graduate school, I remember hearing from this other grad student. It was a black woman, and she was talking about how she had this insane interaction that was very racist. She played ultimate frisbee, and we were like, well, what was this incident? And she had just started playing ultimate frisbee in this new league, but she was very athletic, and so she did really well on the first time that she played ultimate frisbee. And so some friends after the game came up to her. They had never met her before, and they said, man, you're so good at ultimate frisbee. Have you ever played before? And she was like, no. And then someone else said, well, that's just good genes. And she took that as being an instance of, this microaggression because, oh, I'm black, I have these good genes. And I heard this story, I remember thinking, no, the first instinct was, have you ever played before? Have you practiced? Is that why you're so good? And she said, no. And then well, what's the other alternative? You're just have a predisposition, you're athletic.
You're a natural.
Nature
versus
and then
nurture.
So she dismissed the nurture part, the practice, because she had never practiced before. And then because the next available option was you're a natural athlete, that was racism. And I just remember thinking, like, this is completely insane.